So, Lauren, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I'm not as ancient as Kerry in the job, but I started in CCS working for the industry 19 years ago, and I'm still a little bit involved in it, but more on social sciences issues, and this is what I will discuss today. But I will take a broader scope. In fact, I will take the scope at least at start of any kind of subsurface engineering subject, any kind of subsurface engineering operations. So here it is. No. Yeah, it's okay. It should be. Yeah, too much. Voilà. So what we experience quite systematically is that we have more and more difficulties in deploying subsurface engineering technologies, even if they are part of the energy transition. And here I'm talking about CO2 storage, of course, but also geothermal, the geothermal project, energy storage, like natural gas, of course, but also hydrogen storage projects. And almost everywhere we are facing at least suspicion or even opposition from public society stakeholders, and they really question two things. They question the legitimacy of the technology or a specific project. Do we really need it in the context of the energy transition? And then they question also the quality of the deployment of the technology or the quality of implementation of a project, of a specific project. And they want to be active in these discussions, and they want to have their concern listened to. So now I think that's, sorry for that. Yeah. Okay. So it's within this. I'm missing a slide, but it's okay. So it's within this context that we started a project, a big research project with only social sciences, in order to rework the concept of social acceptability. Because at the end, we found that the social acceptability concept was not really adequate, was not really appropriate. It was because it was conceived by a lot of stakeholders as an attempt to push for a project which was already defined. And clearly, a lot of stakeholders opposed to even the usage of this concept. In the industry, we have other concepts like the social license to operate or the free, prior, and informed consent. But even these concepts are not really appropriate because they are missing something. They are missing the fact that what we need is really to put forward, to set up a process of engaging stakeholders in some kind of co-construction of some aspects of the project so that at the end they are realized, they are implemented. So that was the objective of GEFIS project. GEFIS stands for Global Governance or Social Governance for Subsurface Engineering projects. The goal of this project was really to promote stakeholder engagement so that we create the possibility of an informed dialogue on the exploitation of underground resources in the context of energy transition. And the two words are important here. Informed dialogues means that we provide all necessary information in a transparent way to stakeholders, and we also create the conditions for a dialogue. So which is, and the necessity for that is we push people to have an open attitude so that they exchange viewpoints even if they are opposing, in the dialogue process. So of course, the ultimate goal is to facilitate the implementation of projects, and the dialogue should happen on both the technologies or the sectors and also on the project themselves. So when a technology is found to be legitimate, we encourage the co-construction of the project implementation conditions. So what was quite amazing with this project, it was that it was a huge project, in fact, with a 3.5 million euro budget, with quite a lot of people, a lot of industrial partners, and also research partners. We had also consultation specialists, as I will show you later. And definitely I want to thank TotalEnergies for that, because a very strong part of the budget was coming from them, on top of public funding, of course. So the project duration was 4.5 years, and it just ended last year. So what was the specificity of this project is that, again, it brought together a lot of different people with different expertise, different backgrounds, social sciences on one side, but also a very operational organization like industry. We had also a significant involvement of the ministries, which had representatives following the project itself. And we decided not only to be observers, but also to propose, and test some methodological developments, so that we check whether what we wanted to improve in the practices was practical and efficient or not. So in terms of disciplines, we brought together human sciences, social psychology, so sciences of the individuals, I would say, cognition sciences, but people expert in small group dynamics and consultation. And also we had some social scientists, geographers, sociologists, people specialized in public policies, so in order to have a mix of competencies. In terms of methodology, so we did quite a lot of work, as you can imagine. We had the second work package was really the core research programs and knowledge building of the project. We worked a lot on representations and attitude, because we have big issues, especially among common people, I mean, on how they represent the subsurface itself. Usually the representation of the subsurface is linked to what we call very strong imaginary kernel, and that does not help. It's not a very objective representation. We had also research actions on cooperative learnings, in order for a group of non-expert people to increase their competencies on a specific project, engaging communication, so that's related to the commitment theory. I will come back to this. Issues also, or studies related to the political geography of the subsurface. We explored the possibility to consider the subsurface as a common good, for instance, in order to manage all together the different technologies and the different projects. And also we had some legal contributions on different topics. So that was really the core research actions that were, of course, capitalizing also on an analysis of the state of the art and experience from projects, as well as practices from other sectors, in order to come up with recommended practices, which was really, again, the practical side of the project. So what was interesting is that, of course, we wanted to test these recommended practices. So we had some field experiments. Field experiments, in our case, were really public debates in really normal settings, I would say. And that allowed us to check whether our approach was correct or not. The field testing concerned two topics: a project dedicated to helium and CO2 production, and a second project related to, that was more a program in that case, related to CO2 storage in France. So what was the outcome? The first outcome, I have to say, was that when we talk about stakeholder engagement, we mean a process which has to be clearly defined and which is quite well structured. And here, when I talk about stakeholder, I don't talk about just the public. I'm talking about any kind of stakeholders. And I would like to insist on the fact that a project developer does not decide on its stakeholders. The stakeholders will declare themselves. And you may not want a stakeholder, but you will show up. So that's important. So the process for stakeholder engagement is a two-phase project, and that's very well known among consultation specialists. You have first a preparatory phase where you analyze the context, the environment. You do your stakeholder identification and mapping, which is extremely important. And then you identify from this preliminary analysis, you identify the issues and the concerns that the stakeholder may have. You select the topics for discussion, etc. This is very standard. Any kind of organization doing sustainability reporting does that to prepare for the sustainability report. So there is nothing new. We just do it here for a specific project. And then you move into really preparing the engagement phase. And for that, you have to decide on engagement levels, and I will comment on that just now, and select the proper engagement setups. So here, we have to keep in mind that the way when we talk about communication, it is just the first engagement level. In fact, when you look at the recommendations of the International Association for Public Participation, for instance, you have 5 levels. And it starts with informing the public or informing the stakeholders, but then it moves into consult, involve, collaborate, and empower. When it comes to empowering, it means that you delegate the decision to your stakeholder. So there are 2 ends of a huge spectrum. And you have, of course, depending on the topics, depending on the stakeholders also, you have to decide where you position. I will come back to that with some details. And of course, depending the setups that you are going to use depends on the level of engagement that you choose. So once you have completed this preparatory phase, you move into the engagement phase, where a first step is really to prepare for the engagement, and this is where you have to, create the conditions for the informed dialogue. So you have to bring all the information and convince people that they should participate with an open attitude, and then you run the engagement phase. And at the end, what is also extremely important is, of course, that you give feedback to your stakeholders, both on the results of the process and the way the process itself worked or not worked. So here, the first message is that there is a process for stakeholder engagement, and as you will see later, but the more active you allow stakeholders to be, the more likely they will change, adjust their representations, their attitude, their intentional behaviors, etc. So the second message is that there is kind of a possible categorization of stakeholders' concerns. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, they are concerned about the industry first, or the technology. Does it have legitimacy with respect to the global goals of the country, which may be carbon neutrality, but also independence of supply or things like other big goals or economic development? And when the legitimacy is accepted, what about the quality of execution of the deployment plan? So that's the first concern, the first 2 concerns. And then roughly when this is established, you can much more comfortably talk about projects. In France, it was quite difficult to discuss about CO2 storage projects before the the CCS technology was even mentioned in a national program. Before that, we could just talk about research, but certainly not about deployment. So when it comes to projects, again, you have these two topics, which is the legitimacy of a project. So is a project legitimate in the context of a technology deployment roadmap? So this has to be debated again, and depends on local conditions in that case. And then, of course, what about the quality of implementation of the project itself, from design or even exploration to closure? So we strongly believe that the fact that we mix all topics within debates by going too fast on projects, we pollute the debate and we don't create the best conditions for projects to happen. Because to some extent, the project side is the project developer responsibility for sure. But the left side, the industry of technology, legitimacy and quality of execution, quality of deployment plan, we strongly believe that it's the politicians and the collective that should take the responsibility of organizing at least the debates and deciding on that, together with the stakeholders. And very often we start at level 4 and we completely forget, this kind of hierarchy in the topics. So, and on top of it, something I did not mention, but which refers to the color scale, it's, we found that the discussion on industry and in terms of legitimacy and quality of execution, it's more, this discussion should happen more at the macro scale or even regional scale when you start talking about deployment, where of course, when you talk about a specific project, you decrease the scale, you become much more local, and these debates have to be organized at the meso and micro scale. So when it comes to deciding for the left part, engaging stakeholders and technology, remember there was two steps, legitimacy of the technology and conditions for deployment. So we worked a little bit the details of the topics that should be covered in these different steps. Talking about discussing the general context, transition scenarios, etc., for conditions of deployment, technology maturity, governance and the deployment plan, and we recommended, based on our observation, some levels of engagement between, again, inform and empower. So that recommendation that we had tested. Moving now to project implementation. So, as you all know, a project, a subsurface engineering project, more or less follows the same kind of workflow with two phases, exploration and exploitation, which requires, in general, permits for each of them. And we found also that there were some engagement moments that could be proposed because they correspond to critical moments of the project realization, and that should be put into debate. So the first one is project legitimacy. We have seen it already, and then you have during project execution, exploration, conditions of implementation, monitoring of operation, and conditions for closure and restitution. So stakeholder engagement, even if you have specific moments which are extremely important, and again with specific stakeholders that will show up at each of these moments, is a continuous process, and you should, of course, maintain it active all the project lifetime long. So again, for each of these steps, we have detailed a little bit the topics with even more detailed specific questions in the project reports, and proposed some level of engagement for this kind of for each step. So in summary and conclusion, I would like to insist on the fact that, I mean, we prefer to forget about social acceptability and this concept because it's always unclear whether we talk about a result or a process, and definitely what should be preferred is to implement a process during which the project developer and all its stakeholders are working together to decide on the legitimacy of a project and the conditions to be fulfilled so that it is seamlessly integrated in a specific environment. And the outcome of the process, at least, depends a lot on, of course, a quite in-depth analysis of the territory specificities, characteristics that you are planning to integrate your project in, but also the acknowledgement of all stakeholders' concerns, issues, constraints, whatever is important for stakeholders in the conception of the project itself. And of course, something extremely important is the attitude and willingness of the project developer to engage stakeholders. I think that the project developer should not fear losing control because it's at the end when they want to keep control of things that they create conditions which are not necessarily favorable. And the final point is that stakeholders should be allowed to be active and able to contribute to some aspects of the project itself, even some decision-making processes, especially when it comes to the management of social and environmental impacts. And at the end, conditions, of course, for this acceptability of project has to be maintained throughout a full project life cycle. You're welcome.
So I will just ask, are there any questions for clarification? Okay, I don't see